This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you in an article I read from HamiltonProject.org. Not a site that I really visit often. In fact, I really rarely heard of it, but I was dealing with rental properties and evictions, and caught my attention, especially if you're on the side of investment properties and using that as a supplement for your income, or you're just an investor as a whole and using rental properties as a way to get passive income. It dives more into the point of how it affects the small landlords, the people who don't have or not large LLCs or LLPs, I should say, limited partnerships that constantly pull resources together. But people like myself and other small investors who make up a good portion of people who actually rent out properties, they can also be people who were seniors who might have just had a couple properties over the year and using that to supplement their Social Security or other income. So this article kind of dives in and talks about it from the other side, not just the moratorium where they're, especially with the pandemic going on, that the people who are renting the properties, but the other side, the people who don't have all the resources, these other places, and how it affects them. So I want to dive right into the article. Of course, I'm going to put a link inside the description. An eviction moratorium without rental assistance hurts small landlords too. As the economic consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic grown increasingly dire for millions of Americans, the federal government, along with a growing number of state and local governments, have taken measures to protect homeowners and tenants from the threat of foreclosure and eviction. In March 2020, the CARES Act imposed a federal moratorium on evictions, which mandated it was illegal to evict tenants who participate in federal housing assistance programs or live in properties with a federally backed mortgage loan due to a non-payment of rent. When the CARES Act moratorium expired on July 24th, a host of state and local governments passed their own eviction prevention measures. But these actions vary significantly across the country and left many renters vulnerable to eviction once again. Most recently, on December 4th, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, ordered an immediate nationwide halt of evictions of any renter household due to non-payment of rent until December 31st, 2020. These moratorium policies were enacted in response to rising housing insecurity exacerbated by the COVID-19 recession. As of July 2020, 1 in 3 American renters had little to no confidence in the ability to pay next month's rent. And these are the author's calculations. Some estimates predict as many as 40 million people face potential eviction. Furthermore, the public health threat of displacement to eviction during the COVID-19 pandemic can put families at higher risk of contracting or spreading coronavirus. Nevertheless, an eviction moratorium is not a panacea for the problems created by housing insecurity. Because moratoriums do not forgive or reduce rent payments, moratorium policy merely delays the threat of eviction as renters continue to accumulate debt. But it's not only tenants who face great economic risks of the COVID-19 recession without rental income. This is where it gets really boring, in my opinion, right now, because of the base of the article. A significant number of non-corporate mom-and-pop landlords who may be coping with their own unemployment additional expenses related to the COVID-19 pandemic will also struggle to pay their mortgages, utilities, bills, property taxes, maintenance costs, and other property-related expenses. Relative to larger corporate landlords, mom-and-pop landlords likely have fewer resources, very good point, to withstand long delays or significant reductions in rental income. The loss of rental income under eviction moratorium represents a significant income shock for smaller landlords of modest means. Our analysis finds that 40% of residential property units are owned by individual investor landlords. Among those owning residential investment property, roughly a third are low to moderate income households. I didn't even know that. Property income constitutes up to 20% of their total household income. Without rental assistance, tenants and small landlords alike will continue struggling to make ends meet. So if you only help one side of you're also going to affect the other ones. Who are the landlords? This is where it really dives in. Using data from the 2018 Rental Housing Finance Survey, Figure 1 shows that just over 40% of residential units are owned by individual investors. Most other units, 30%, are owned by limited liability partnerships, or limited liability company LLCs. Well, whereas LLP, LP, and LLC business structures can pool resources to reduce property-related expenses and spread the potential risk of property ownership across partners, individual investors, landlords are fully liable for assets and income invested in their property. Right. I just also want to put out one disclaimer. LLCs is where most people will actually use LLCs, and they can be small and mom and pop. I know myself, I use them to, limit your exposure to you personally. So they could still be a mom and pop here with an LLC. I just want to point that out. I use them all the time. And I'm not an LLP or partnerships. I know other smaller investors use LLCs all the time. It's just a good way, tax purposes as well as protection, to limit it to that one entity for that rental property. Just want to put that disclaimer. I digress, but let's continue on. This implies that unstable rent payments are even more detrimental to investors, often referred as mom and pop landlords who carry greater financial vulnerabilities. They show the charts, LLP or LLC or other entity. Pop landlords rely on rental income. To better understand the economic circumstances of landlords, we leverage data from the 2016 Survey of Consumer Finances. We define landlord households in this data as households that own at least one residential investment property and receive income from that property. Due to data limitations, we are unable to distinguish whether a household is the sole owner of this investment property, whether it's owned in partnership with any other entity as in Figure 1. Figure 2 shows the income distribution of landlord households and the share of households' total income derived from property income. Our analysis finds among landlord households, about 30% of low to moderate income earning annual household incomes of less than $90,000. Wow. $90,000 is still a pretty decent income, but that's what they're showing, the low to moderate income. Property income comprises a greater proportion of low to moderate income landlord households' total income that does for higher income landlord households. This property income for landlord households earning less than $50,000 provides nearly 20% of their total household income. Very good point here. Property income only represents 5% of total household income for landlord households earning over $200,000. And they did a good job showing that here. Moreover, mom and pop landlords continue to bear the expenses of owning and maintaining residential units, even in case when rental income declines. Well said right there. For the typical residential property owned by individual investors, which has four or fewer units, average annual operation expenses per unit range from $4,600 to $5,400. For many of these mom and pop landlords, property-related expenses can consume more than half of their property income. Without rental income to offset these expenses, low to moderate income landlords may struggle to maintain the residence on which tenants depend. Consistent rental income is essential for investor landlords. I'll repeat that again. Rental income is essential for individual investor landlords, especially those with modest means who rely on rental income as a substantial portion of their total household budget. For landlords renting to tenants whose rent is partially paid by government subsidies, those government payments mean that participating landlords receive some guaranteed income, even when the tenant is unable to afford rental payments themselves. In particular, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, also known as Section 8, is an affordable housing initiative that allows landlords to rent homes at lower market rates to qualify low-income tenants and pay the balance of rent payment exceeds 30% of the renter's monthly income directly to the landlord on behalf of the tenant. In this way, Section 8 provides a secure form of passive income. And it has its drawbacks as well. I'm not here to disclose that right now. However, analysis of the Rental Housing Financial Service shows that individual investors are less likely to house Section 8 tenants compared to multi-unit properties owned by LLPs, LPs, or LLCs. In fact, the fraction of multi-unit properties that are home to at least one tenant receiving Section 8 vouchers is more than 50% of higher multi-unit properties owned by LLPs, LPs, or LLCs than for individual investors owning multi-unit properties authors calculations. Expanding the Section 8 voucher program will not only help ensure that more tenants who are eligible for housing assistance actually receive it, but also that more mom and pop landlords can secure guaranteed rental income via Section 8 government programs. They're always talking this stuff with guaranteed. If the tenant increases income, they can still skip out as well and still leave damages to the property. It is a more stable form of income. I just wanted to point that out because it's guaranteed, and depending on the state itself, where is this money going to continue coming from? And I've done a video before about that because it is a burden on the states, even though they're trying to provide assistance. Money just can't be printed out. They rely on taxes as well. But for the sake of this article, I'm going to continue going on, kind of don't want to digress too much. In addition to strengthen Section 8 and other rents, expanding unemployment insurance benefits can help restore financial stability to tenants who may have missed rental payments due to job loss. In turn, this can also restore an essential rental income stream for small landlords. While the nationwide eviction moratorium is only half of the solution, it serves as a critical protection for the health and economic security of renters. Landlords in several states are challenging the CD's moratorium and continuing to take tenants who may not be aware of their rights under the new moratorium to housing court. Reports suggest that the eviction actions are largely led by corporate landlords. To be sure, the eviction moratorium is critical for mitigating the spike in housing insecurity. However, larger corporate landlords likely to have relatively more financial resources to absorb a reduction or delay in rental income associated with the moratorium. True. That is definitely true. Without rental assistance, small landlords of low to moderate incomes may not be able to maintain their supply of rental housing and will experience a significant income shock due to loss of rent payments under the moratorium. More specifically, emergency rental assistance sources should prioritize those facing those most severe housing insecurity, including those at high risk of homelessness. Supplementing the moratorium policy with federal rental assistance is critical to protect the long-term housing tenants and small landlords too. Definitely an article worth your time in reading, even clicking on some of the links that they have here. I kind of read through it quickly and just point out different aspects that, just important. But, just looking at the other side, it's just not only for the tenants. There's millions of people who are not paying mortgages as well, and they also fall under the criteria of small mom and pop investors. Think things differently. Be prepared, because 2021, we're going to see a serious housing correction crash, and it's going to continue for a while. And maybe your opportunity. Right now, individual landlords are struggling as well. So if this video has been any value to you, please subscribe, leave some comments, hit the like button. Until my next video, I'm out.